It's Dave Ryan from Iron Blackbird Cycles. We got to gut this transmission today because it's got a cracked case, but the tranny's good, so we're gonna pull it out, and it's going in the guy's bike that brought the tranny in. So we got to pull it all out of this case and put it back in another case. So you guys get to see a tranny come apart today, maybe all of it. We might get it off film today. Okay, so we're pulling 2 bolts that hold the keeper on. In just a second, and I'll show you this. At least somebody didn't use red Loctite on these. So there's 2 bolts. Let's get a pick, get in there and pull that. This is the keeper. And now we get to get the socket out. Let's see here. Yeah. As you can see, that is not your average socket. That is long enough. That socket is long enough that it'll slide over that shaft. And by the way, this nut was already loose on this transmission. Could be a reason why it's got a broken case.
I was gonna say, you just wiggle that.
Usually I gotta put an impact on this to pull these, but I just stuck this socket on and turned it. So, now keep in mind, these are backwards threads, so as I'm tightening this also pulls that nut off. This is a right-handed thread on this, so that as the transmission's turning, that doesn't loosen up. Obviously, somebody never tightened this enough before they put the keeper on. Now, it's not a tragedy, but it's not good on the sprocket and that kind of stuff. So let's see if we can pull that sprocket off. Right? Oh, there we go. Didn't even have to have a puller. Got it all right off. So now that this side's done, let's see if we can pull this out. They make 2 different sizes of these. Depending on the year of the transmission is what size this is. Now this rides up against an O-ring which is in there, and that O-ring is the inner seal. This is your outer 5th gear seal. I'm not even going to pull that seal out because, like I said, we're going to try to weld this case up. I don't know if we'll ever reuse it, but I can get a new case from Midwest for, you know, a couple $100 at max. And we're going to take this gear set out and put it in a new case and have basically new transmission. Because while I got the gear set out, we'll check all the dogs on the shifting, the shift arms, and make sure nothing's excessively wore. Make sure everything's good. The splines on the 5th gear look fine. So I said this was a 5-speed. This is a 5-speed case. This is an Ultima six-speed gear set. That's the reason this is larger than a normal 5-speed. Inside this is the extra gear, kind of inside the back of this plate. So that allows enough room to put a 6-speed in a 5-speed case. So if you have a 5-speed case, you can order this 6-speed gear set and put it in your 5-speed case. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this shifting drum off. This right here houses your shifting drum. And by the way, we've been having lots of flooding here. And I think out on the East Coast, they've been dealing with a lot of flooding too. So the power went out here. This building is on the side of a hill and we have a pump outside. And that pump outside basically catches the water coming off the hill and pumps it over the building and out into the drain. And that keeps us from flooding in this room. That's why we don't put boxes on the floor and stuff. The other night the power went out on top of about 2 inches of rain. And we come in and spent 2 hours squeegeeing the water off the damn floor in here. By the way, this is your neutral switch. It's a magnetic sensor. Actually, it's a detent sensor. And when you put this in neutral, this detent pops out, closes the circuit, turns on your neutral light. So that's how that works. This is your vent for the transmission. This will get a little rounded piece of fuel line, or they make a formed rubber piece for that. Goes down in between your motor and transmission, just vents the air off the transmission so you don't build up pressure inside the transmission. Let's see. Looks like you want to grab a 7/16 wrench, Ryan.
You want a ratchet or just regular?
Yeah, probably. I think I can get a ratchet wrench in there. So this plate that I'm taking off right here is your, which I'm probably not going to take it off and leave it up. I'm just going to leave it on. It doesn't house anything. This is just a cover plate where your speed sensor would go for your transmission. If you're using newer style Speedo that needs a digital speed sensor, that's where that goes. So now we're going to get into the guts here. Watch out for a minute. In case nobody knows, if nobody's ever been into one of these transmissions, you see all these little crooked areas, and what that does is move the shifting forks back and forth, which will slide a gear in and out. It'll either be out and freewheeling, or it'll be in and being transmitted to this shaft back here. So as you turn this shifter, that moves this dog, and this dog pulls this barrel, and this barrel puts it in gear, out of gear, whatever gear you want. There's a couple other added spring things on this, but that kind of gives you the idea. When I pull this up out, you'll get a chance to see the shifting forks and understand more about it. A lot of people won't pull their own tranny apart when they've got transmission issues. And really, as long as you take the time to remember how you took it apart, how it went together, and take good pictures, preferably video of you taking it apart. So when you go to put it back together, you say, man, I don't remember where that went. You can go back and watch a video. So get your cell phone out, film yourself, film anything interesting that you think you might need to remember later on. It's a good tool for making sure you don't get this thing back together, get it back in the bike and figure out you done it wrong. We got a parts box for this tranny over here, so we'll get these out of our way. See if we can get a socket on it. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't get a socket on either one of those on that side, so we're stuck slow handing it to get that out of there. If anybody's wondering, there's an Allen set right here. This Allen set adjusts where this shifting arm sets. So like if you got a bike that's having an issue going into neutral or something like that, it could just be out of adjustment there. Grab us, we're gonna have to lift that. This bolt is not gonna come out because of this shifting arm. So what we gotta do is lift that up a little bit. Well, there we go. If you pop this spring loose, you can get this shifting arm out of the way, and you can pull this up enough to get this bolt past it. And it's gonna be stubborn all the way out. There we go. And we should be able to pull that shifting drum right out of there. This is the other part of the spring mechanism for the shifting drum. This just rides freely, supports this. That arm has a catch on it right here. That catch is what grabs these teeth, and you're able to turn that drum around. What I'm gonna do is leave that all together as I dump it in this box over here. So much for that. Now, we have, can you see this inside here?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are your shifting forks. This is what moves your gears back and forth. And you see one of them's a little odd looking. Well, that's actually two of them are a little odd looking. Those are the replacements that come with this six speed set. So that you have six gear sets in here instead of just the 5. So let's turn the table here a little bit. And see if we can't start getting this stuff apart. Let's do this. Somebody has been in this transmission. Luckily, we're probably putting a new one of these on. Looks like they pulled almost all those except for they've got some oddball screws in here, which is not supposed to be there. And that's another reason why we're taking this thing completely apart. We don't know who was in this. Guy brought it in with his bike. And just like that, we see that wouldn't have worked. This is the snap ring that holds the throwout bearing in. This is your throwout bearing. There's spots in there for 3 ball bearings. If you look in here, there's 3 ball bearings in this. And we're gonna pull those out now because all this stuff's probably gonna be replaced. So, and guess what? Oh, look at this. that was laying in the bottom of this. I'm gonna see where that went. Just a minute. When the ball bearing shot across the floor. So this piece is probably gonna get replaced because somebody's piddled it. But so we're pulling all the guts out of that. That's gonna go in the box as well. Now we're down to, so this shaft right here is the shaft that holds the shifting forks in on that side. So we pull that shaft, and this shifting fork is pretty decent. I'm not seeing a lot of wear on it. Looks pretty good. It'll probably pass. Aha. That's part of that 6-speed set I was talking about. Some of these are not going to come out until we can get all the shafts out. What size that is. Ooh, too big. Too small. I don't think it's metric.
That's just what I was thinking.
Don't. Let's see how tight it is. That's not. It's not metric, but it was close enough that I could pull that shaft without damaging it. So that's the plug that holds this shaft in. There's a shelf on that that keeps that from going too far in. And that's the other. This is part of the 6-speed set. It's nice I made those out of bronze. I'm still probably gonna have to manually shift this thing maybe to get these others out. I think that's an 11/16. You want to see if you can find that and pull that. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull these. What we're going to do, rather than to try to get those hard deals out, because they are hard and they will cause us problems if we strip one. So if we can pull this whole gear set out at once and not have to take this loose and take the bearings out, then we're going to clean those bearings really good and check them.
That's it.
Did it break loose?
Not yet.
You might have to take a little hammer and
That's what
and just give it a tap with a dead blow.
I don't know if we got a dead blow every few feet.
Well, I'm gonna have to wait till Ryan gets back and hold this case.
Right.
Okay. And these you can't screw up. There's big and small on this, but all the big are on the bottom. I don't know what the purpose of the big on the bottom is other than there's some exhaust brackets that they attach right here. And I would think you want a lot beefier your bolt if you're going to attach the exhaust to this transmission. Otherwise, you're asking for problems. You just want to turn it the right way.
That's been it. I think I just didn't hold the tranny down.
We got to be careful. We need it. We have to use the word transmission.
It's true.
I've had
It is
AI.
usually at that.
I've had YouTube's algorithm pop us out on a video because I said tranny, and well, now I just did it again. And
Pretty soon we're not going to be able to say one word.
I know it's ridiculous.
Everybody's going to be speaking in codes.
Set tools all over here on that. Let's put all this stuff in the box because we got a whole bunch of oil leaking out of this thing. Pretty good. How you guys doing? Give me just a minute. So once you slide two of those gears, you can get that back shift and fork out. And we'll have to slide some more gears, get this front shift and fork out before we can pull this the rest of the way out. So what I'm doing here is getting this last shift and fork out so that we can pull the gear set out. And what I'm doing is rotating this gear shaft, the main shaft, and moving the gear to where we can slide that last shift and fork out. And,
It's a 5-speed.
it's a 6-speed gear set in a 5-speed case. So what we're doing is we're pulling this 6-speed gear set out and putting it in his Ultra.
Just the gears.
Yeah, just the whole gear set's gonna come out and it'll go in his Ultra.
Okay.
And then he'll have a 6-speed in that old 82 Ultra. He'll have a 6-speed in it. And,
Yeah, I was reading on one of them. It said it was a Fat Boy, and it was like, well, it's not a highway bike. It's only got 5 speeds.
yeah.
Mine's
That's
only
all they
got
had
5
back then.
speed, yeah.
Yeah, that's all they had back then.
Hell, just imagine when they only had the 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they got to 5, hell, that was highway.
Well, when they only had the 4 speeds, we just went 70. But back then, the speed limit was 55 on the
55,
interstate.
yeah.
And we got to pull this gear set out.
Just this one or both of them?
Both of them come out together because they're in the. And this is the deal where we don't want to let all this shit slide apart. And I got to take the 5th gear out, which is good because I can tell that 5th gear bearing is not any good anymore. So luckily we'll be putting new bearings in his case because this is a Softail case, although all of the
Because it's rounded off?
guts, no, the actual bearing
Oh,
that
bearings
the
bad.
shaft turns in, I can hear it, so I know it's not up to par.
Oh.
But we'll be putting new bearings in his case anyway. So what's in there is the what would normally be the 5th gear. But and if you notice on this 6-speed set, this is now 6th gear. I'm pretty sure on these. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking you still utilize that same 5th gear back there. It's only when you go into 6th gear. That's the reason for this plate. You notice on a regular 5-speed transmission, this plate is only about that thick. But on these 6-speeds, they have to have room for this extra gear. So actually, we're putting handlebars on Ernie's bike here in the background while I'm working on this transmission. So
Oh, you're talking about them. I thought you was talking about
yeah, you're now YouTube famous.
Oh, shit.
So we're gonna finish tearing this case apart. We got to pull the shifting mechanism out of it. We got to pull this 5th gear out of it, and then the next videos after those videos you'll see will be the us putting this 6-speed set back in the Ultra. So we'll have to show how to get it out of an Ultra, which is not fun. So now we're pulling this 5th gear seal out, and that'll be trash. And I got to find a big set of snap ring pliers, and we're gonna pull this snap ring. Well, let's see if we can get this big snap ring out of here. Boy, you don't want that thing to hit you in the eyeball. There we go. Glad that drawer was open. That's a hoss of a snap ring right there. So what we got is we have to press this 5th gear out. And there we go. Easy as that. So now that everything's out of this tranny case except for this, you have to push it down and then it will slide out. And we have that out. Now the last thing to take out is going to be this Allen set. Now this adjusts that shifter arm as to where it pulls at and where it doesn't pull at, so that you can get that to go into gear easy enough. So let's get an Allen wrench in that and see if we can pull that out. This is the adjustment for that. That goes in, you adjust this as to how this works.